So last Sunday, we started this topic about situations, and we looked at the situation last week. And as believers and people in general, we can trust that God can save us from our sin, but we struggle with trusting Him to handle our situations. And we feel like some situations are just too great. When there's no situation too great, no circumstance too great, or no condition too great that God cannot overcome. God can overcome anything that you going through. He's bigger than what you're going through. He's bigger than depression. He's bigger than anxiety. He's bigger than infertility. He's bigger than a divorce. He's bigger, and whatever you're going through, He can handle it. Because He is, as I said before, He is a great God, and He can overcome anything that you throw His way, any condition. If you can agree with that, say amen. Amen. And so today we're going to look at a situation today that the Israelites are in, and we're going to be in Exodus chapter 14. Exodus 14, the first through fourth verse, and then we're going to read the 10th through 14th verse, and I'm reading for the Christian Standard Bible. Exodus 14. Then the Lord, if you guys you can see it on the screen. Yep. Then the Lord spoke to Moses. Tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea. You must camp in front of Baal-zephon, facing it by the sea. Pharaoh would say of the Israelites, they are wandering around the land in confusion. The wilderness has boxed them in. Someone say boxed. Boxed them in. I will harden Pharaoh's heart so he will pursue them. Then I will receive glory by the means of Pharaoh and all his army. And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. In verse 10. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up. Someone say looked up. And there were the Egyptians coming after them. The Israelites were terrified and cried out to the Lord for help. They said to Moses, is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Isn't this what we told you in Egypt? Leave us alone. Leave me alone. Leave us alone so that we may serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses said to the people, don't be afraid, stand firm and see the Lord's salvation that He will accomplish for you today. Not tomorrow, but today. Not next week, but today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see them again. The Lord will fight for you, and you must be quiet. Or some people say stay calm. And the subject of this morning is boxed in. Boxed in. Moses and the people of Israel found themselves boxed in. Someone say boxed in. The Red Sea is in front of them. The Egyptian army is behind them, and they're boxed in. They have no logical way of escape. They're trapped. They're stuck. They're caught between a rock and a hard place. Some people say they are in a tight spot or a pickle. You always say they caught themselves in a pickle. They are boxed in. They're in a situation where they say there's no way out. How are we going to get out of this? They are simply boxed in. They're trapped, and their back is against the wall. Have you ever had your back against the wall? Their back is against the wall. They can't go forward. They can't go backwards. They're just simply stuck. Someone say stuck. They're stuck. There's nothing like being stuck. They're stuck with no progress. Stuck, and it brings about so many emotions being stuck, so many emotions being boxed in. Being boxed in brings about frustration. Being boxed in brings about anxiety. Being boxed in brings about fear. Brings about you frustrated. You anxious. You just don't know what to do, and that's when your back is against the wall because you just don't know what to do. You ever been in a situation where you just don't know what to do? do. You are boxed in. Someone say boxed in. And this is what the Israelites are going through at this moment. They are boxed in the Red Sea. They see the Egyptian army marching in after them, and they don't know what to do. But I've learned, if you see what God is about to do, is that God shines in moments like this. His glory shines in moments like this when your back is against the wall and you don't know what to do. This is where he thrives. This is where God shows up, and we know when he shows up, he shows out. God ever showed up and showed out in your life before? And they are boxed in, but God works. They're in a situation where it's impossible. They don't know how they're going to get out of this, and it's hopeless. They losing hope because of fear. They see people coming. They don't know what to do, and this is where that space between the impossible and hopeless is where God thrives. When you need something to happen, you ever need something where you need something to happen, and this is where God thrives. This is where he shows up and shows out. I like to say that we serve a clutch God. Y'all heard that word clutch before. In sports, they use that word a lot, clutch, clutch, clutch. And to be clutch means that you show up in a critical situation where the game is on the line, where the outcome of the game is at stake. So you people are known for their clutchness. Like when you look at the NFL, Pat Mahomes is known for his clutchness. 11 seconds left on the clock, you know what to do. Kobe Bryant was known for his clutchness. Michael Jordan was definitely known for his clutchness. But oh my goodness, God is a clutch God. God should be known for his clutchness, to come through in critical situations where you just don't know what to do, where the outcome of the game or the competition is at stake. God will come through and show you what he can do. He comes through, he show up, and he show out, and you have no choice but to say two words: but God. But God. Anybody had a but God situation? But God, but God, but God. My back is against the wall, but God. My back is against the wall, but God. There is no way out, but God. I didn't know how I was going to deal with this, but God. Someone say, but God. But God. He's not afraid of the bright lights. Bright lights scare some people, but God shines. The brighter the lights, the more God shines. The bigger God shines. The bigger the moment, the bigger God shines. The bigger the situation, the bigger God shines. The bigger the circumstance, the bigger God shines. God is saying that his glory is going to be on full display in this moment. And so he's pretty much setting the stage. Being boxed in is God setting the stage. So you can see his power. So you can see his glory. And so you can see his clutchness. Because the Israelites, they're afraid. They're fearful. They're scared. When they see him, they approach. They say, it's because they're telling them Moses, like, is it because why did you bring us out here? You should have left us alone, like we said, but they're stuck because think about it, they've been in slavery for so long. They've been in bondage for so long. They've been in captivity for so long. And studies show that it was less than a week that they're in this situation. So you're trying to expect a week cannot overcome that mindset of that slave mindset. So in their eyes, Pharaoh is bigger than God. In their eyes, because they've been in slavery for so long. And the thing about it, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It was. So if you go back to Exodus chapter 1, it shows how they got into slavery. It's because when Jacob's 11 sons, because Joseph was already there, migrated to Egypt, and then the Bible said that the Israelites began to multiply. They began to be fruitful. They began to multiply greatly. They began to increase in numbers and became so numerous that they filled the land. So God pretty much expanded their territory. Expanded their territory. And some people do not like when your territory is expanded. And the king over Egypt at that time felt some type of way. They felt some type of way. See, your blessing can be somebody's trigger. Because God's plan for them was for them to grow and become a great nation. But as they're growing, it's triggering the king over Egypt. So he started feeling some type of way. Because a lot of people are not fans of your fruitfulness. A lot of people are not fans of your growth. A lot of people are not fans of what God is doing in your life. So you want God to enlarge my territory. Just know some haters gonna come with it. And so because they were growing, because they were expanding, see, everything was all good when they weren't growing. But the second they started growing, that's when problems arise. Because the second they start growing, the second they became fruitful, the second they started multiplying, that's when a problem arose, and it triggered the king over Egypt's insecurity. Because at that time, they were afraid of an invasion of the Hittites, and they felt like if the Israelites were going to keep growing, they were going to team up with the Hittites and take over. So the majority was afraid of becoming the minority. And whenever the majority is afraid of becoming the minority is going to do things to try to stop the minority. Are y'all following me? And so when all this is happening, everything was all good till they started growing. See, your blessing can be somebody's trigger. Things were all good until God started promoting you. Things was, when you had no clients, it was cool, but the second you start getting clients, here comes some people hating. The second you started growing your business, here come the hate. The second you started growing, here comes the opposition. And so to handle the growth of the Israelites, the Bible says that he decided to oppress them with forced labor. But the Bible said the more he oppressed them, the more they multiplied and spread. Come on now. Come on. You see how, because nothing can stop God's plan for your life. The more they afflicted the Israelites, the more they grew and expand. It was like, so people afflicting you is like throwing water on a grease fire. It's not going to do nothing but help it keep going. So the Egyptians are pretty much throwing water on a grease fire, and no amount of affliction can defeat God's purpose for their life. And here's the thing, they can hurt the Israelites, but they can't defeat God's plan for their life. People can hurt you, but they can't defeat God's plan for you. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope. And so you can hurt my feelings, you can hurt my body, but baby, you can't defeat the plan God has for your life. Nothing can stop God's plan for your life. But they're being abused. They're being hurt. They're humans. So you can see this mindset that they're developing as they're experiencing slavery. They've been abused. And even though it said, when you think about no weapon formed against you shall prosper, it didn't prosper because it can't stop God's plan for you. So the weapon doesn't mean it hurt. That comment hurt. What you said hurt. That review hurt, but it didn't defeat God's plan for your life. And so that's why in the midst of pain, in the midst of affliction, just know, baby, God still has a plan for your life. And so as they're experiencing slavery, the Egyptians were unsuccessful in slowing them down, but they were successful in breaking their spirit. And so when we look in the text and we see this fear that they have, and they talking to Moses, and they going at Moses talking about what's going on, why did you bring us out here? It's because their spirit was broken. Their spirit was it's nothing more damn than a broken spirit. Their spirits were broken. The spirits were broken. And when you have a broken spirit, you're unable to receive what God is trying to do for your life. You're unable to believe what God is wanting to do for your life. Because when your spirit is broken, it's discouraged. When your spirit is broken, you feel hopeless. When your spirit is broken, you really don't believe God is for you. When your spirit is broken, it discourages you. What the enemy can't destroy, he discourages. And the way he discourages is by breaking your spirit. Even as we lead up, even they were unable to receive the promises of God because that Moses told them. Remember, they're in slavery. Moses told them, God told Moses to tell the Israelites, I am Yahweh. I am Yahweh. I am God. I will bring you out. I will rescue you from bondage. I will redeem you. I'll take you as my people. I will be your God. I will bring you into the land. I will give it to you as heritage. These are the promises of God that he's speaking over Israel. I will bring you out. I will rescue you. I will redeem you. I will take you as my people. I'll be your God. I will bring you into the land. I will give it to you as heritage. He told these promises in Exodus 6, but here we are in Exodus 14, and they are afraid when they see the Egyptians come and saying, Moses, why did you bring us out here to die? Didn't we tell you to leave us alone? It is better to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But they were unable to receive the promises that Moses was speaking, that God told him to share with them because of their broken spirit. Can y'all put that on a text real quick, the screen real quick? It's so y'all can see Exodus 6, Exodus 6:9. It says, Moses told this to the Israelites, but they did not listen to him because of their broken spirit. God promised to not only deliver them, but to give them the land that he promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God promised not only, I'm not just going to deliver you, but I'm going to give you the land. I made a covenant with them, and I'm going to fulfill the covenant through you. Because we serve a covenant-keeping God, a promise-keeping God, a covenant-keeping God. He's a man of his word. He's a man of his promises. What he says, and what he does, he does. He's unchanging. He's unchangeable. He keeps his word. He said, also, when God is speaking to you, delivering his promises, it should encourage you. It should lift you up and make you walk in boldness, knowing that God got me. God got me. He said what he said, and God said, I'm going to do it, and you can count on me that I'm going to do it. But they didn't listen to Moses because of their broken spirit. Broken spirit. Your spirit is very important. Your spirit is the breath of God himself. Your spirit is a part of you that connects and communicates with God. So if that channel is broken, you're unable to fully, effectively communicate with God when your spirit is broken. That's why some people have a hard time worshiping, because where you worship God in spirit, because God is a spirit. And when that effective communication is happening with God, you're able to give God the glory, give God the honor, and give God the praise that he deserves, because you worship him in spirit. But some of us are walking around with broken spirits. Broken spirit. You've seen too much. You've been through too much. The Israelites seen too much. They've been through too much, and their spirits are broken. And a broken spirit will have you thinking, God not really for me. Anybody ever felt like that? God not really for me in this situation. And what we see is that God's showing, I am for you. Even when you're boxed in, God is for you. Even when you're trapped, God is for you. Even when your back is against the wall, God is for you. And if God is for you, who can be against you? God is setting the stage to show that I am for you. Even when all this is going on, God is for you. He's been for them. This whole journey to get to the Red Sea, he's been there for them. He's been there for him. Taking them around the long way was him being there for them. Because the text says when Pharaoh's let them go, the Bible says when Pharaoh let them go, he took them around the long way and not the short path through the land of the Philistines. Because if they faced war, they would change their mind. God knew them. We just sung that song, He Knows My Name. God knows you. He knows what you can handle in the season of life you're in. He knows what you can. He will never put more on you than you can bear. And so him looking out for you is him taking you around the long way. He's been there for them. On the road to get to the Red Sea, he's been there for him. He led them as a pillar of cloud. He was in front of them. Pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire at night. He's leading them. He's guiding them, and he's leading. He's showing that I am for you. But the second they see that they're boxed in, all that goes out the window. All that goes out the window. The presence of God is there. God is there. God spoke to them about the promises. He shared with Moses shared with them the promise of God. Yet, someone say yet they still felt some type of way being boxed in. Because when you boxed in, all that stuff goes out the window because you scared. You don't know, you stuck. You don't know what to do right now. You just know that your enemy, you just know your opposition, your enemy at hard times is marching in towards you. You ever seen a problem coming towards you and they are afraid? They are terrified. They are afraid. And they're freaking out and they're panicking because, like I said before, Israel is not yet a week out of Egypt. So it's easy for them to say, we're going to go back to what we're comfortable with. We're going to go back to what we used to, because we have to understand you just can't change your mindset just like that. See, some of us, when people get out of trauma, we expect them to just change their mind like that. But that's years of trauma and pain in the past. It's going to take time to start transforming and renewing the mind to get to where God wants it to be. It takes time. And so they immediately went back to what they're comfortable with. We will go back and serve instead of die in the wilderness. And God led them straight outside looking in. It looked like God led them straight to a trap. God led them straight to a place where their back was against the wall. God led them straight to a place where they had nowhere else to go. Red Sea in front of them, and they see the army is coming in behind them, and they are terrified. But this was God setting the stage. Someone say setting the stage. He's setting the stage so they can see his power on full display. Because they're about to know who God is through experience. See, you can read about him all you want. You can hear about him all you want, but to experience God is a whole nother different story, because God cannot be fully explained. He's too big to be fully explained. He's too wide to confine. He's just too great, too big, too great, and he has to be experienced. And so they're about to come to know who God is through experience. He said, and they're freaking out and they panicking, but Moses tells them, don't be afraid. Yes, easier said than done. It's easy to say, hey, don't be scared. But in your heart, you scared. In your heart, you terrified. In your heart, because you boxed in. In your heart, you just don't know what to do. In your heart, they already was on the fence. They already was skeptical. They already had to be convinced. And now they're here in this boxed in place. They're here in this trap. And God is basically saying, I'm about to show you. I'm about to show you. I don't know what it needs, but God is about to show you. He's about to show you. And when you see what God is about to do, is him showing them his power. And Moses said, do not be afraid. Stand still. Stand firm. Basically, don't move. Don't move and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord that he will accomplish for you today. Right at this moment, God is about to do something for them that they're going to see the saving power of God himself. Remember, they've been in bondage for years. And now they're about to see the saving power of God himself. He said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Because I don't know about you, but when you are boxed in, you tend to want to dig your way out. You ever had a problem where you try to dig your way out, a situation where you tried to get yourself out? But Moses is telling them to stand still. I know you boxed in. I know you're scared because you see the Egyptian army is coming, but stand still. Someone say stand still. I know you see the issue coming, but stand still. I know your kids are tripping, but stand still. I know your money going crazy, but stand still and watch God work. Watch God work. Someone say, watch God work. Stop trying to figure it out. At this point, Moses had no idea how God was going to help. But he knew that God would help. See, we don't know how God is going to save us. We don't know how God is going to deliver us. We don't know the how, but we know he's going to do something. God is going to do something. And Moses do not know what he's going to do, but he know he's going to do something. Moses is in a situation where he's leading a people that are skeptical. He's leading people that have a broken spirit. He's leading them and have to encourage them to lift them up and keep them going. It's tough being a leader. It's hard. It's challenging being a leader. Being the strongest one in your family, being the strongest one on your team, being the strongest one in your group to keep them going. When their spirits are broken, to keep them going. When they're losing faith, but keep them going. It takes some strength. It takes some strength. And Moses is encouraging his people like, hey, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. For the Egyptians you see today, you will not see no more. The God, Lord, will fight for you. All you have to do is stay calm. All you have to do is don't panic. All you have to do is don't be afraid. Because he did not bring them this far to bring them this far. We have to understand that God did not bring us this far to bring us this far. We think it's a trap, but God did not bring us this far just to leave us boxed in. God did not bring you this far to just leave your back against the wall. God did not bring you this far just so he can abandon you. He said he'll never leave you nor forsake you. So he led you to it so he will get you through it. He didn't just lead you here just to lead you here and just to drop you off and say, okay, y'all, it's all on y'all now. But no, he brought you here for a reason. He brought you here. He boxed you in for a reason so you can see his power. You can see his glory. You can see all that he's capable of doing because he has the ability to overcome any situation that you're in. But we can get so used to trying to work out situations ourselves. And he said, no, start giving me your problems. Start giving me your situation. Start giving me your circumstances. God got you. Say, God got me. Moses knew he was in a bad situation, and God had no choice but to come through. You did not bring me this far for a reason. God is going to come through. And in this part where I like right here, it said, God said, Moses, why are you crying out to me? Get to work. Why are you crying out to me? Why are you crying? Then he gave Moses instructions. He said, Moses, this is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to tell them. This is what I need you to do. And this is what I'm going to do. Because God always give us something to do. A lot of times we want God to do all the work, but God always requires something for us to do. Moses had to do something. He said, God said, this is what I need you to do. And after he gave Moses instructions, God said, this is what I'm going to do. And then God immediately went to work. Someone say, went to work. He immediately went to work. He said, tell them to move forward. And then a pillar of cloud that was leading them. That led them to this situation. The pillar of cloud that led them to the situation immediately went behind them and protected them. So, and acted as a barrier between the Egyptian army and the Israelites to protect the Israelites from an attack while God was making a way. So God got your front and your back. God is in front of you, leading you, and he's behind you, protecting you. So he's leading and protecting at the same time. And sometimes we need to thank God for protecting us from danger seen and unseen, protecting us from sneak attacks. He's leading and protecting while God started working on a way. He's in front of you and behind you. In front of you and behind you. And can y'all put this verse on the screen? Exodus 14. Then it said, then Moses, this is what Moses had to do. Moses stretched out his hand. Stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back with the powerful east wind all night, and turned the sea into the dry land. But here's the key word right there. Y'all see that? All night, all that night. That phrase, all that night. All that night. I don't think y'all getting it. All that night. So the way wasn't made instantly. The way was created all that night. See, a lot of us, we looking, thank you, Tech Team. A lot of us, we want that way to be made just like that, where God is working all night. So while you sleeping, he's working. In your darkest hour, he's working. So you just need to get some rest because he's working. The way he's working in the dark, he's working in the dark hour. See, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. He's working on a way. So when you feel like you're being boxed in, just know that he's working on a way. It may not come when you want it to come, but baby, it's going to come on time. He's working on a way. All that night it was working. The east wind drove back all that night. And I had to really think about that because growing up, I always thought that the sea just part, just like that when Moses stretched out his hand. But all that night, it was parting. All that night. And so when you boxed in, just know that God is working on the way. You may not see it now, but it's working. He's working. He's always up to something. We don't know what his left hand is doing. We don't know. He's working on something. Just be obedient. God, our obedience is important. And we need to keep the faith. See, it was important that Moses knew God was going to do something. You did not put me in charge of leading these people to lead them to a trap, to lead them in a situation where their back is against the wall and they boxed in and just leave us here. No. So while the Israelites are panicking and worried, Moses like, God, what? I know you didn't bring us this far to just leave. You gave us these promises. You said you will deliver, you will redeem, you will rescue. You gave us all them promises in Exodus 6. And here we are chapters later, and we in this situation where Egyptian army is approaching in on us. And this is God making a way. Working in a space where it's impossible and it's hopeless. That they were hopeless, they were in a hopeless situation, and they needed a miracle. They needed something impossible to happen. And here's the thing, and when you think about this as well, it wasn't really a trap for the Israelites. This was really a trap for the Egyptian army. Because when they crossed the sea on dry ground and got to the other side, God made the Egyptians chase after them on dry ground. And so while they were still walking in the middle of the Red Sea, that's when God had Moses stretch out his hand and close the sea. And so all the Egyptians were killed. So it was really a trap for your enemies. It was really a trap for the enemy. But what we saw on full display is God's ability to deliver us from boxed-in situations, to deliver us from situations where our back is against the wall. And so when we cross situations where our back is against the wall, it's important to just stand still and let God be God. Let God work. Stop trying to figure out, my great-grandmother always say, while you trying to figure it out, God already worked it out. Y'all grandmama say that too? While you trying to figure it out, God already worked it out. You just got to get there. You just got to they just had to get to the Red Sea. They just had to get there. So next time you catch yourself between a rock and a hard place, next time you catch yourself boxed in, next time you catch yourself where you feel like you're stuck and there's no way to move forward, just give it to God. Give it to God. I know we used to trying to work stuff out and figure something out because we don't like not knowing. We don't like not having the ability to figure something out. But some situations, you need to give it to God. Give it to God. Because he's for you and he will fight for you. So when you boxed in, somebody might be boxed in this room or watching online. You're in a situation where you don't see no way out. Just know God got you. And I want to end on this quote I found. It said, "A predicament in God's hands is only a highway to the promised land." A predicament in God's hands is only a highway to the promised land. A predicament is a difficult, unpleasant situation. But God will use that difficult, unpleasant situation to lead you straight into your destiny, to lead you straight to where he wants to take you. All you have to do is put it in his hands. All in his hands. Give it to God. Give it to God. I know you scared. I know you fearful. But give it to God. It's an uncomfortable situation to be in. Believe me, I know I've been there before. Anybody ever been in a boxed in situation, a trapped situation where you felt like your back was against the wall, you didn't know what to do? It's very uncomfortable to be in. But it's relief knowing that we serve a God. We serve a great God that will stand and fight for you, that did not bring you this far just to leave you boxed in, and has the ability to make a way out of no way. Just think about how far God brought you. Moments where you felt like life was stuck. You were stuck in anxiety. You were stuck in depression. You were just stuck and you didn't know how you was going to get out of what you was going through. But God made a way. God made a way. When you didn't see no way happening, God made a way. When you didn't know how it was going to happen, God made a way. Don't know how, but he did it. God made a way. I don't know why, but he did it. God made a way. Can we give God praise for making a way in our lives? For opening doors in our life. Boxed in. We all have moments. All have moments, and it's important. Just can't move on from there. I feel like somebody really been in a situation where you felt stuck and you just don't know how you're going to get out of this situation. So I pray that this word, you found comfort, you found encouragement, and it helped uplift your spirit so that you can receive the promise of God that's saying that he would never leave you nor forsake you, and that God is for you. Watching online, God is for you. Being boxed in, you might feel like God is not for me, because if he's for me, why would he put me in this situation? If he's for me, why would he have me go through what I'm going through? If he's for me, why would he do this to my family? If he's for me, why would he allow this to happen to me? But he is for you. He's just going to show you on a large scale, I'm clutch and I'm going to give you a way out. Thank you, Jesus. I'm just setting the stage so you can see my glory. I'm setting the stage so you can see my power. I'm setting the stage so you can see all that I can do, because you must have forgot the great God that I am. Some of us, see, being boxed in will have you forgetting how great God is, because we'll tend to forget all the things he done for us in the past. But if he did it back then, he can do it today. If he got you out back then, he can do it today. If he made a way back then, he can make a way today, because he's unchanging, unchangeable, and he's consistent. If he did it for them, he can do it for me. Can the church say amen? Can we give God praise for that word?